all the silly little animals sleeping by the side of the road, or how I learned to bemusedly deal with these strange and lovely dystopian times without you. A.K.A. The tragedy of my rival self-published novelist. Chapter 5. Failing to repair my relationship with my ex-girlfriend, Ella Opalton. Every night, I arrived timely for my shift. I wore the same uniform. I set up the bar. I cut fruits. I replenished liquor and liquor bottles. I joked around with my coworkers, even when my manager would yell at them and threaten their livelihood for not paying attention. I said the same conversational phrases with minimal variations in tone and execution. Hi, what can I get you to drink? A glass of alcohol? Sure, coming right up. It was repetitive. I understood that I would near an existential crisis if I were to continue this lifestyle. One night, in early October, I called out sick out of nowhere. I drove 6 hours upstate with the intent to win back my ex-girlfriend, Ella Opalton, since we experienced a major falling out while I studied abroad in Stockholm. On my drive, the roads were empty, aside from the occasional traffic sign for road work. I drove through the mountainous ranges, with views of valleys, filled with dead trees and dried-out ponds and reservoirs with low levels of water. Streams trailed along the roads. The surface of the water was covered with dark brown leaves and plastic grime. For most of the trip, I didn't have any cellular service. If anyone were to call me, there would be no shot that they could reach me. No one could find me. For some reason, I felt completely content with that. I randomly undertook this last-minute trip because I felt the need to repair our relationship. I felt the need to repair our relationship before something dangerous could happen. Maybe I felt this way because there was a viral video of the owner of our beloved pet grooming salon, Imogen, getting attacked without reason. Maybe I felt this way because a local domesticated alpaca was sought after as a food resource and escaped and proceeded to cause the death of many reporters and journalists and many other families as domesticated alpacas and alpaca handlers. Maybe I felt this way because it appeared that times were approaching, and I wanted to see Ella Opalton, an individual I still cared about, before the state of our society could become more dismantled than it already was. Out of all the reasons, the main reason was that I missed her. I missed her a lot. I really did. I arrived on campus around 9 p.m. I brought my vintage speaker system with me. I carried it over my shoulder. I walked along the pathway over to the window to her dormitory. I played a song the two of us used to listen to when we were still together. The song ended. She opened her curtain. I waved at her. I lifted the speaker over my head in an effort to make her hear the song better, even though it ended. She saw me and looked down at me, blank-faced. She opened the window. I put down the vintage speaker system. It continued to play music. Hi, I said. Hi, Ella Opalton said. It's nice to see you, I said. You're looking really well. She sat on her bed, which was right next to the window. Her hair was strewn around. It stood up in a staticky way. I caught her right as she was about to go to sleep. I couldn't quite see her. The window screen made it look as though I saw her on a blurry television screen. So we're doing this again, Ella Opalton said. Yep, it's been a minute or two. I was just talking about you. Oh, really? I said. I was talking to my parents. They are unretired again. They went on a mission. They told me that they could use someone like you. Good for them, I said. Do they still need someone? I'm not sure. They always admired your advanced intellect. They work with a lot of hostages. That's all I know about their mission right now. Ah, I see. Where are they? I can't talk about where they went. Besides, I'm sure the place they told me isn't their real location. They probably made one up so as to throw off anyone who tries to go after them. People probably listened in on our call. My mom talked as though she knew someone transcribed the call. My father said multiple times, "And can you remember to water the orchards every month or so?" Which was strange, because I never knew him to take an avid interest in horticulture. That makes sense. There was a pause. She tapped her chin with her finger. I reread one of your novels, by the way. Oh, really? That's nice of you. I did recently self-publish quite a few novels. Which novel are you referring to, Ella? Dishonorable Academia. It was interesting. I reread it a few times, actually. I took this as a compliment. In my eyes, I did find the novel to be experimental and haunting. It was pretty risky, altogether. It was about a genius academic who ignited a violent international dilemma. From the start, Ella became dedicated to my fiction. She read all my early works. She found my old notebooks full of silly stories and deserted novels with all the most demented narrators and absurd plot twists and experimental storylines I'd thought of up inside my young adolescent head. While I wrote, she sat on the couch near my desk. She read my latest draft. Harold and Francis gradually came over to her. Harold leapt on the couch, circled around, and lied down against her. She ran her free fingers through his neck scruff. Francis lied down on the floor and rested his head on her feet. With her feet, she petted Francis's back, and Wooly liked to perch on her shoulder. He seemed to inspect the pages with her. Ella always anxiously read my writing. She tried to find herself in the stories. She read my writing with such a stern glare. She flipped through the pages as though she might rip the pages apart. Occasionally, she sniffled her nose at parts she found amusing. "Thanks," I said. "Just wondering, was, that character supposed to represent me? Was that me seeping into your fiction?" "Of course not," I said. "Why would you think that?" She wobbled her lower lip into her finger, which tapped her chin. "Well, maybe because there was a scene where the protagonist visited their girlfriend at college while the protagonist studied abroad in Stockholm, and when the protagonist visited her, the two of them shared a conversation that was almost word for word as the one we shared when you visited me while you studied abroad in Stockholm." "Ella, you know me. I never write anything autobiographical. All my writing is always pure fiction. We talked about this. None of it is real. I made it up. I know how you frantically scan through the pages and dig into every nitty-gritty detail in hopes to find a smidgen of yourself somewhere in my writing. Ella, I assure you, there really is not a speck of you in my writing. There isn't. I swear, Ella. I guarantee you that there aren't any characters in my writing that are depictions of you. I also wrote that novel, Dishonorable Academia, while I was completely sloshed." "All right," Ella Opalton said. "All right," I said. "So, are you going to tell me what in the world happened in Stockholm?" Well, on that front, it's complicated. It's a long story." "How is it complicated? Did you get into legal trouble? Are there people after you?" "It's a very long story. Can you sum it up? Maybe, could you tell me an abridged version of it?" I pondered the suggestion. "No, not really. Unfortunately, it would take me forever to tell you an abridged version." "Fine," she said. "On another note, would you like to attend the upcoming virtual film seminar affiliated with the Deptford Public Library? It's available to view online. The medium makes the content more accessible for the elderly and those with disabilities." "Not really. We aren't together anymore. It doesn't make sense for me to attend while we aren't dating. That's a serious activity, going to the virtual film seminar." She was right. The whole idea was a ploy to win her back. I appeared very attractive when I spoke at the virtual film seminar. My mentor hosted it, and he spoke highly of me during the discussion portion. Ella knew this. I thought about this, and I realized Ella was still talking. Besides, I have to write 3 thesis papers for my classes. I researched the content for one of them for the past 4 years. You know this. The virtual film seminar would set me back." "Of course," I said. "How are your parents, by the way?" "I don't know where they are. They are probably interrogating someone right now. That's what they do best." "That sounds about right." The thing was that I knew where Ella's parents were. I called her parents every day, according to what was convenient with their time zone. Ella paused for some time. She traced her fingers along the window screen. Sometimes she would say nothing for a while, and then ask what was really on her mind. "Are you sure you can't tell me what happened while you studied abroad in Stockholm?" I would prefer not to discuss that subject, actually. She paused again. Her hand dropped to the window ledge. I decided to switch the subject. I switched the subject to us. Remember that time you visited the Deptford Public Library? Do you remember that, Ella? I left my notebook at your house. You drove over to the Deptford Public Library to return it to me. Not a single parking spot was available. It was a Thursday afternoon. The 1 to 2:30 p.m. Mahjong group was always such a scene. You were stuck behind one of the shuttles which brought the attendees over. You had to put your hazards on and leave the car behind. It was obscene. You arrived at the fiction section, where I was at work with my fiction. I looked up. I saw you all flustered. I was absolutely annihilated from the drink. The librarian came into the room after, and I introduced you to. She was so content to finally meet you. I told her about you for so long, and there you were. But that was then. Things are different now. Look at me. Do you really think we could work? Come on. Let's run away. Let's leave the country. We can survive on the land, grow our own food resources, and live in peace. Other people do it. Let's get away from this harsh capitalistic society. We can move to an island, or maybe even a desert. We can live in peace. Does that really seem safe to you? Of course, it's a safe plan. Let me ask you this. If you are concerned about safety, do you really think that it's a safe place being on a college campus? Wait, are you saying that my school isn't safe because you are aware of a potential threat to the campus? No, of course not. That's not what I meant. Though, on average, there's at least one death a year at this particular college. No one died here this year. Well, yes, that's fair. Another song began on my vintage speaker system. The sound of a synthesizer started to incrementally increase in pitch and soon produced rolling arpeggios. As the instrumental continued, Ella and I stared at each other. I felt as though she were about to ask me a monumental question. I wondered what she would say. I wondered how I could possibly respond. It was funny. I felt that I knew her so well, yet I had no idea how to communicate with her effectively. So, why are you here? Are you going to try to give me those snapshot photos of us again? Or are you going to try to give them to me so that you can show me that you still have them? This caught me off guard. I patted the pocket where I kept my wallet. I recollected the moment that we took those silly photos in that photo booth. It was such a profound moment. Yet, the snapshot photos were tainted. I didn't know what to say to her. The snapshot photos wouldn't have helped anyway, though it completely clobbered me to know that I no longer had that memento in quality condition anymore. I don't know what to say, I said. Ella Opalton sighed. I reached down to shut my vintage speaker system off, though I found the song encapsulated my emotion. So I let the song play. I continued to head back to my car. On the way, the song changed. One of the more popular songs played on my vintage speaker system. That was another thing. Most of the songs on the radio at that time had this intentional staticky instrumental. The lyrics were mumbled at such a low pitch you couldn't understand what the singer was trying to say. I parked in a gas station parking lot and stared out the sunroof the whole night. I left my windows open. I heard all the nocturnal critters active during the night. All night, I listened to all those songs on the radio. I listened to them so much, I almost figured out what the songs meant. I eventually understood that part of the meaning of the songs was that the songs weren't actually supposed to have a meaning, and that there no longer had to be any meaning to any songs. The fact that there didn't have to be a meaning to the songs was meaningful, and also wasn't meaningful. I understood it was pretty advanced musical theory. The next day, I drove back to Deptford, and arrived right before my shift at the restaurant. I punched in and acted like nothing happened. I dressed in my usual attire. I attempted to show no emotion whatsoever, even though, on the inside, I felt emotionally crippled. As I worked that night, I masked all my emotional frustration behind an artificial, simpleton smile. Here, let me take your order. How are you doing tonight? Would you like a side of fries with that? Another beer? Sure. I'll pour us 4, so I can throw a couple back with you. Yes, I'm swell. Really, I am very well. Yes, so great, so great. Everything is so great right now. Look at me. Look at how well I am doing. In the midst of my shift, the patrons who regularly came to the restaurant to see me explained how they all missed me so much. Some of them grabbed onto my arms. Even though I was only gone for a night, they mourned over me. They groaned at the loss of me, even though I was right there. I told them that. I told them that I was still here. I was still right here. They were afraid of losing me. All the people who attempted to court me were desperate to keep me around. What shall I say? Shall I simply say that I am lethally attractive? Towards the end of the night, a woman led me into the restaurant's bathroom. She threw herself at me wildly. I stumbled backwards onto the floor. We mutually expressed our shallow appreciation for each other in a physical manner. It was amusing. It was a good distraction. The experience temporarily numbed me. Another woman appeared in the doorway. She shoved me into the wall. She ran her fingers under my shirt. Her fingernails dug into my skin. I bled. She licked the blood along my body. It was violent and attractive. The way that it was violent made the gesture feel more attractive. Soon enough, more women entered the restaurant's bathroom. Multiple women began to physically engage with me at the same time. All kinds of women appeared. There were women with long hair. There were women with short hair. There were women with colorful hair. There were women with hair all over. There were women with no hair at all, no eyebrows, eyelashes. Their heads were completely bald. There were women with tattoos. There were tall women. There were short women. There were women with standard height and weight and appearance. Clouds of them paced through the door and embraced me. I did not take their background or appearance into mind at all. I wasn't concerned at all about where they came from, honestly. I wasn't concerned at all that I didn't even know their name. I didn't mind at all that I had absolutely zero personal connection with any of them. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. All of a sudden, a few men entered and approached me. I reciprocated. I didn't care. I didn't care what gender or sex they were. Some women had male genitalia. Some men had female genitalia. There was one individual that had both male and female genitalia. I didn't have a problem with this whatsoever. I involved myself with everyone, passionately and indiscriminately. Some of them spoke to me in languages I didn't know. I wasn't even thinking. Time moved faster and slower, simultaneously. So it seemed. Bodies in front of me blurred. Here were bodies that were once born. Here were bodies that would inevitably die. We embraced each other violently. We embraced each other gently. We embraced each other however we mutually wanted to embrace each other. This happened to me once beforehand. The bathroom was cramped. So many bodies swarmed around me. People took breaks to relieve themselves with the toilet. After they did so, they didn't bother washing their hands. It would only prevent us from engaging with each other. Some continued to physically participate with each other while they relieved themselves. People of all ethnicities and racial backgrounds entered the bathroom. All of them consensually engaged with me and with the others. Someone turned the lights on and off at a seizure-inducing rate. All the while, people ate and drank and socialized in the dining room and bar area and outdoor dining area. Some coworkers joined in. My manager even participated. Someone brought in my vintage speaker system. I didn't remember bringing in my vintage speaker system into work. The pages of the story the hostess had translated fell off the wall of the break room and were somehow whisked into the bathroom. One of the pages sprung up from all the commotion and covered my face. When I pushed it away, I couldn't recognize any of the words on the page. Our bodies were slick with sweat. People physically engaged with me with a serial killer-like passion. Someone played the video of Imogen and her boyfriend being assaulted. It was played on a phone almost out of my view. I watched the video so many times I knew exactly what it was. I involved myself with everyone. This was not challenging for me at a physical level at all. While I satisfied several random people, I heard a song's shivery instrumental and the faint, mumbled lyrics. I expressed physical affection to all the people present the way I wish I could have expressed my physical affection for my ex-girlfriend, Ella Opalton. Maybe these people found out that I was indeed one of the top self-published novelists on the leaderboard, and that was why they threw themselves at me. Maybe one of them planned on killing me in the middle of the scene. I thought about how transcendent all of this was. All of us were human beings. No other characteristics mattered. No, actually, It wasn't transcendent. I tried to have physical relations with as many people as possible, indiscriminately, in an effort to feel better about my failure to repair my relationship with my ex-girlfriend, Ella Opalton. A minuscule part of me did this for a pleasurable sensation. It didn't even feel that pleasurable. I participated out of principle. This was simple war theory. Since I acted out of principle, none of the things I did were genuine. None of it made me feel better. Even though it looked as though I was part of something transcendent, my fraudulence and poor motives made the experience the opposite of transcendent. At the end, I found myself alone on the floor of the bathroom, out of breath. The hostess opened the door to the bathroom. She stared at me, confused. She didn't say anything. We didn't speak the same language. We would have needed a translator to properly correspond with each other. There likely weren't actually many translators that could communicate with a hostess. She could only communicate in her language, which was more or less extinct. I often felt empathetic for the hostess. She lived in my shadow the whole time. Crowds of people would come into the restaurant for me. Her only claim to fame was the story about Imogen, which she had translated into our language. I realized that it must have been challenging for the hostess to perform her role at the restaurant without being able to communicate. How did she greet patrons? How did she seat them? How did she answer the phone? How did she even interview? I picked up one of the pages of her story on the floor of the bathroom. All the pages were scattered along the floor. I tried to hand it to her, though she left. After work, I pulled into the driveway with a newfound energy. I went into my room and blasted a song from an animated children's movie. It was a childlike song. Still, the song always got me amped. I did push-ups. I shadowboxed the air. On my laptop, I ordered the fire escape ladder I told myself I would order one day. I drank heavily. I drank whatever scrap of alcohol I could find around the house. While I became heavily intoxicated, I wrote an entire novel on the fly and self-published it that same night. The novel was about a young college student studying abroad who was randomly appointed to assassinate a corrupt dictator and dismantle the dictator's unjust political system with the help of the daughter of a retired special intelligence agent. The two traveled abroad to multiple foreign nations and took out each of the corrupt dictator's comrades. The corrupt dictator ordered hitmen to eliminate them before they could assassinate him before the upcoming rigged election. The corrupt dictator arranged for a paper shredder to be used to count the votes of his opponents. There were many gruesome battles throughout the novel. The hitmen were armed with bazookas and rocket launchers. The hitmen demolished civilian homes and transportation systems. Yet the young college student arose to the occasion. The hitmen lost limbs fighting against the young college student. The young college student bit a hitman's calf straight off the bone as if a military-trained German shepherd. During an alleyway brawl, the young college student tricked one of the hitmen into shooting himself with his own rocket launcher, which sent him flying through a brick wall. The other hitman ran away for reinforcements. The daughter of the retired special intelligence agent found the young college student's tactical skills impressive. On the side, the novel had a romantic and charming love story. The relationship between the young college student and the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent developed as the two defended themselves against the corrupt dictator's hired hitmen. This was expected. The young college student was, indeed, irresistibly attractive, though, as the plot unravels, there was a conflict between the young college student and the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent. The young college student soon found the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent not entirely reliable. Towards the end of the novel, she mistakenly identified one of the corrupt dictator's hitmen as a simple dog walker, and the young college student was almost caught off guard to the point where they almost couldn't take out the other hitmen during their rooftop battle. How could she not have figured out the hitman's disguise? What kind of person hooks a leash onto a dog's collar and brings it up onto the roof of the tallest building for a very limited walking space? Fortunately, the young college student noticed a helicopter pass by the top of the building. The retired special intelligence agent's daughter believed the helicopter was a tourist activity. A rope ladder soon unraveled from the base of the helicopter. The dog that the dog walker walked was indeed a stuffed animal that looked very convincing. Several hitmen demounted from the dangling ladder. The hitman leaped off the ladder. The impostor of a dog walker took out a katana and charged at the young college student. The young college student ducked under the blade and yanked the fake dog walker's leg so that he fell face first on his own katana. The other hitman made a run at the young college student. The daughter of the retired special intelligence agent unloaded on them with her pistol. She missed most of them and only killed one, unfortunately. The young college student grabbed the stray katana from the deceased hitman. While all the alive hitmen swarmed around, the young college student spun around and sliced each of them in half with one blow. Right after, the pilot of the helicopter launched a missile directly at the young college student. The daughter of the retired special intelligence agent believed there was surely no chance of survival. She stood motionless as the missile neared the young college student, seemingly in slow motion. This part of the novel went on very slow, even though realistically, a missile could hit its target in fragments of a second. This specific moment stretched on for pages and pages in this novel. It was a stylistic intention. The young college student used this moment to reflect on all the strange occurrences they had with the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent. There was the time she checked her watch as the two entered an alleyway. In the alleyway, hitmen appeared to be positioned by a dumpster that were completely unprepared to engage in any altercation. It appeared as though they were all behind schedule. The young college student easily took all of them out. Only one building collapsed in the process. There was a time that she stayed over at the young college student's hotel room for the night, and she said that tomorrow they could sleep in. Yet, upon awakening in the morning, the young college student noticed that the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent was gone. The covers were clumped together on one side. The young college student left the room before the alarm went off. An hour later, the room exploded. There was the time she ordered a second cup of coffee at breakfast. This was strange. She never had a second cup of coffee at home. The young college student remembered her say that. There were many strange occurrences that made the young college student wary of how much the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent could be trusted. In this moment, all of it became apparent. This particular moment of reflection went on so long, the reader would surely think the novel ended when the missile struck the young college student. Though, finally, after dozens of pages of prose, the young college student composedly cushioned the side of the missile with the side of the katana and curled it around in the direction of the helicopter. The missile tore right through the pilot. The helicopter spiraled down. A magnificent crash sounded in the distance. The daughter of the retired special intelligence agent apologized for the error. "I can't believe I didn't see that." The young college student brushed it off, even though, on the inside, there was a feeling of betrayal. The young college student stared off towards the fallen helicopter. The retired special intelligence agent's daughter asked, "What are you thinking? How did you do that?" "It's all right," the young college student said, as they looked out into the distance at the collection of skyscrapers and clouds tinted by the bronze sun. "You didn't know." A plume of smoke rose from the helicopter's crash. In the final chapter, the young college student and the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent confronted the corrupt dictator at his massive, dome-shaped palace, and a major plot twist was revealed. The daughter of the retired special intelligence agent turned out to be a double agent. She turned out to be a close relative of the corrupt dictator. The corrupt dictator managed to switch the retired special intelligence agent's child at birth. As the corrupt dictator explained this, she glanced at the young college student and bowed her head. In that moment, the young college student felt empathetic for her. Even though she didn't believe in the political ideology the corrupt dictator enforced, she sought to join his side so as to finally meet her real family, who she was hidden away from her whole life. All her life, she infiltrated the retired special intelligence agent's family and tricked him into believing she was his daughter. Since she was born, she had to act as though she were the true daughter of the retired special intelligence agent. It was impressive on her part. She played the trombone at her distant cousin's quinceañera. Right in the middle of the confrontation with the corrupt dictator, it was also discovered that the narrator, the strikingly attractive college student, was actually the legitimate child of the retired special intelligence agent. Suddenly, it all made sense to the young college student. The young college student's mother had mentioned beforehand that she had no idea who the father was. The mother met a lot of men while she was an aircraft mechanic for the military. This was a dramatic scene. Out of nowhere, the retired special intelligence agent came out of retirement. The retired special intelligence agent broke through the ceiling of the corrupt dictator's palace and brutally beat the corrupt dictator into his own throne. All the while, the young college student was forced to restrain the secret double agent from their long-lost father, which was emotional for the young college student, since the young college student really did care about the secret double agent, who the young college student had intentionally thought was the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent, even though she lied and betrayed the trust of the young college student. It was such a dramatic scene that someone reading the novel might slam the book shut and throw it out the window and cry in bed until they die. The young college student really cares a lot about her. Actually, I meant to say that in past tense. The young college student really cared a lot about her. This was a fictional story. It was the character. It was the attractive young college student who felt this way about this particular girl. It had nothing to do with me, personally. With that said, the emotion I intended to evoke in that dramatic scene was something I connected to somewhat at a personal level. To be more specific, the emotion in that scene was very similar to the way I felt at the time of writing the novel. I felt that I lost someone I cared about dearly. None of the events in the novel were autobiographical. I really wanted things to work out between Ella Opalton and I. I never write anything autobiographical. I also don't like attention. I feel as though our relationship was destined to fail. I despise talking about myself. That's another reason why I always self-published all my novels under an alias. I did this so that no one knows who I am, and so no one gives me direct praise for my writing. That is another reason why I try to keep my personal life separate from my writing. With that said, the characters in the novel were very similar to people I knew in real life. I wrote it in a way which made it so no one would be able to determine any connection to any of my real-life acquaintances and my fictional characters. After I finished writing it, I immediately self-published the novel. I never revised or edited my work. It was my understanding that a novel would appear as though it were written by a computer program if everything was written in perfect grammar and proper spelling, so I always left a few misspelled words and grammatical errors. The title of this novel was How I Learned to Bemusedly Deal with These Strange and Lovely. The title was intended to look as though it was an error, or perhaps the title cut off too soon. This was structurally mimetic to the untimely dissolution of the young college student and the daughter of the retired special intelligence agent's relationship. The novel had touches of heartbreak and emotional deceit, since it was challenging for the young college student to interpret the sentiment of their prior connection with a supposed daughter of the retired special intelligence agent, who happened to be the young college student's real biological father. On this occasion, I dedicated the novel to the severely injured busboy from the restaurant I worked at because I thought he would enjoy the story while he recovered. For the life of me, I couldn't remember the busboy's name. Was it Stefan? Was it Stalinsky? At the restaurant, we never called the busboy by his real name. We all called him busboy. It was what everyone was used to, so that's why I was confused over what the busboy's name was. With that said, since I was, by then, so immensely intoxicated, I didn't even write anything close to his name while I typed in the name of the dedicatee. I didn't even put down a full name. I put, Ella must have been devastated. As always, the novel sold ridiculously well. Copies erupted off the shelves. The reviewers were flabbergasted with delight. The one reviewer who gave a negative take on this one minuscule detail in the novel wasn't heard from afterwards. My dedicated fans were known for their deviousness and their ability to physically delete anyone who did not appreciate my fiction. I really had to hand it to my fans. I heard stories of my fans coercing bookshop owners to put my self-published novels on their shelves at gunpoint. Reviewers were constantly threatened by my fans, so that the reviewers would indeed write the truth about my self-published novels. Many reviewers asked about the dedicatee of my novel. I myself thought to correct my error by putting the legitimate dedicatee's name in the future copies, though, unfortunately, the injured busboy, Steve, died shortly after I self-published the novel, unbeknownst to me at the time. So I understood that it didn't matter if I put his name in as a dedicatee or not. Later that night, I went downstairs and saw my mother as she finished up a virtual Pilates class on the television in the living room. She told me she should introduce me to the instructor. Her Pilates instructor was on the screen. She leant into a plank pose. My mother followed in sync, as instructed. "She's round your age," my mother said. "She works at a school for children with quadriplegia. I bet you two would hit it off." "Well, she sounds very nice. Isn't it peculiar, though, that she is right there on the screen, and I am watching her without her acknowledgement?" Harold was seated in front of the coffee table. "Next time I see her, I'll ask if she is still engaged." "All right," I said. "How has your class been, by the way? Have the students been behaving themselves?" In addition to my mother's job as a part-time receptionist at the local Pilates studio, my mother was a kindergarten teacher at the Deptford Elementary School. She was especially strict. Each student in her class was assigned to a specific carpet square during her class lessons. The students were taught to keep their carpet square neat. The carpet squares were checked, time to time, by my mother. If there was so much as a crumb on the carpet square, the student would lose their carpet square for a week and have to sit on the cold tiled floor during morning meeting time and phonics exercises and skywriting practices. When one of her students was caught chasing a marble down the hallway, she made the student draw a marble drawing to put on each doorway of every classroom the student ran past. At the same time, she inspired creativity, obedience, loyalty, and strong academic rigor in the 5 to 6-year-old students. "Oh yes, it has been delightful. It has been so delightful. That's the best way to describe it. The students have been really cute. The rehearsals have went well as well. I promised the class that I would bring Wooly into class for them as a treat after their performance." "That's cute," I said. "They are a really cute class. Wait for the performance." My mother said this, and she appeared to hold on to the word performance a moment longer. Somehow, I felt her anxiety vicariously. Our mother was raised similarly to us. Her mother dedicated an extensive amount of time reading to her while she slept as an infant. My mother was always academically brilliant. With that said, she continually felt the pressure from her mother to excel. I believe this was the reason she worked so strenuously to decorate the gymnasium. She thought she could make up for what her mother saw as shortcomings by decorating the gymnasium for the annual Deptford Elementary School holiday performance, which my grandmother always attended. "That should be nice," I said. "I always enjoy watching the performance." My mother nodded and adjusted her posture. "Oh, well, get ready for this one. This one will be extra special. After your father finishes up his hour of worship, we will head over to the school to work on the decorations there." "All right," I said. "So has school been off to a nice start so far?" "It really has. The only thing is that I misplaced my key card, so my assistant has to let me in whenever I step outside. Fortunately, your father has a key card, so we are still able to prepare for the performance at our usual time frame." "Really? When was the last time you had your key card?" "I can't remember. I'm sure I will find it around the house somewhere. It will turn up. Do you have any idea where you might have misplaced it?" "Unfortunately, I do not. I usually keep it in the car." "Well, we should probably make sure to lock the cars at night. Someone could break in while we are asleep again." "Oh, yes. Fortunately, we already had our cars broken into, so we will be in the clear." "What do you mean by in the clear?" "Oh, you understand precisely. It's simple logic. There are probably plenty of similar cases in the studies and the textbooks I've read to you when you were little. Are you saying that the people who broke into your car won't do it again because they already broke into your car? Or are you saying that since your car was already broken into, it won't be broken into again?" "Both, actually," my mother said. "Well, doesn't the fact that there were people who broke into your car already increase the chances of it happening again? And doesn't the fact that these people got away make these people more compelled to make another attempt? Did you happen to read any statistical theory textbooks while I slept as an infant?" "Most likely. However, now that we are prepared for a potential break-in, it won't matter. The burglars know better than to go for something that is metaphorically time-bombed." "What about other people? Do you suppose other people who break into cars and homes could find our cars fitting to their preferences?" "Yes. Others won't either. Someone already beat them to it. I'm sure about it. Burglars don't go for cars or homes that have already been broken into. It's not proper etiquette. I read about it in an article." "And what article might you be referring to, Mother?" "I can't remember. I remember the cover of the magazine. The celebrity was on the cover. You know, the world-renowned actress? She starred in the film adaptation of Massacre at Paris. Besides, even if they did, the people who did break into my car didn't even take anything. So it wouldn't matter anyway. They must have realized that whatever they were looking for wasn't there. The people only damaged the windows. It was a different kind of break-in. These types of break-ins aren't traditional burglaries. These are much different. These kinds of break-ins are talked about all the time on the news. These kinds of break-ins are more political than anything else. Harold barked. Perhaps he wanted attention. It was unfortunate Harold didn't bark when the untraditional burglars made a political statement. That's a fair point. Well, in that case, I hope the key card turns up. Hopefully, the untraditional burglars didn't take it. I don't believe they did. The Pilates class concluded. The instructor said, "Namaste." My mother turned towards the television and bowed her chin and said, "Namaste." The channel automatically switched to a live television show. "All right," I said. "Well, I'm heading upstairs to mull over my life decisions." "I love you, Mother." "And I love you too." I went upstairs. A voice on the television said, "This round, none of the contestants were eliminated." I passed the rooms where my brothers slept when they were home. My brothers weren't there. My brothers were at college. I passed Anastasia's room. She played with Wooly. She lifted him up in the air. She baby-talked to him. "Who has a sleepy head? Who's a sleepy head? Who's the sleepiest little thing in the world?" I stood outside my father's room of worship as he went about his spiritual practices. He bowed forward in the direction of the hawk statue. Francis sat next to him. He had his front paws crossed. His front paws were folded over each other. My father appeared to be in a trance-like state. I walked into my father's room of worship. I kneeled next to the mammoth-sized tortoise shell placed off to the side of the room, and I bowed my head towards the hawk statue. Our father never taught us specifically how to conduct his tribe's spiritual practices, so I mimicked my father to the best of my ability. Whenever I stopped into his room of worship, I kneeled and bowed my head in the direction of the hawk, and waited. Sometimes, I felt better after a while. Perhaps I performed my father's spiritual practices correctly. At times like these, I felt better when I first kneeled before the hawk statue. An entire hour passed, and my father opened his eyes. "Hi, Dad," I said. He turned towards me. He smiled and nodded. I asked my father if he had a pleasant worship session. He nodded. I asked my father if he was doing well. He nodded again. He had some dried paint on his hands, likely from painting a mural in preparation for the annual Deptford Elementary School holiday performance. I asked my father if the dogs behaved themselves while I was away. He nodded. I asked my father if there was any leftover dinner in the fridge. He nodded. I asked him what he was up to lately. He nodded. This didn't exactly answer my question. This was how most of my conversations with my father went. My father originated from an island tribe. Not much was known about his tribe. Most of his tribe's known history revolves around their decline. When my father was 17 years of age, his tribe had a poor harvest season. A substantial population starved. The tribe made a second human sacrifice. Weeks went by and the harvest season didn't improve. Some requested food resources from other islands. The other nations did not provide them food. Those nations did not want to support the practice of routine human sacrifices. So my father's tribe requested weapons from another nation. That nation fulfilled their weapon request on the condition that my father's tribe would join their alliance at times of war. My father's tribe then used their acquired weapons to attack another nation and retrieve food resources from them. My father's tribe failed miserably by the more technologically advanced nation. None of the tribe members knew how to use the weapons. Some of them threw their rifles at the other nation's soldiers. Immediately, those rifles were used by the other nation's soldiers. Tribe members tossed grenades to the other tribe members to use, only for them to burst before they could catch them. What was left of my father's tribe retreated. As a defensive measure, the other nation brought a full-scale retaliation on my father's tribe. An armada sailed towards the island. My father's mother was the first to see the fleet of warships. She instructed my father to hide inside of an empty tortoiseshell. All the other tribe members didn't give much thought to the approaching threat. Most of them practiced a routine hour of worship. The soldiers landed on the shore in rowboats and approached the tribe's village. Without a moment for any of the tribe members to register, the soldiers sent missiles flying towards the main cabanas. The tribe members bolted in many directions. They ran one way, and then ran back the other way. They ran to other cabanas moments before those cabanas blew up. Some crouched down on the ground with their hands behind their head in hopes to blend in with the surroundings. The soldiers relentlessly killed the tribe members. Not one of them knew how to defend themselves. None of them even knew how to hide. The tribe members hid in plain sight. Some tried to reason with the soldiers, which only gave the soldiers an easy shot at them. Less than an hour later, the other nation had eliminated my father's tribe and left. My father slid out of the tortoiseshell. He witnessed the rubble of exploded cabanas. In an effort to calm down, he hummed the tribal hymn and danced to the irregular melody. He swayed his arms in the air. He smacked his hands together. He stretched his palms as high as he could and slammed his palms into the ground. He sidestepped and continued to dance around the entire vicinity of the destruction. He did this for hours. It was his way of honoring the deceased members of his tribe. After he surveyed the area, he looked over his belongings. Most of his belongings were destroyed. All he had left was a few of his tribal garments. That night, my father tied dead logs to each other and made a raft. He packed his tribal garments and brought his tribe's sacred hawk statue and the tortoiseshell with him. Even though it took up most of the raft, the tortoiseshell was apparently very dear to him. He used a stick to paddle throughout the night. He slept in the tortoiseshell during the day. He hummed the tribal hymn all night. He even hummed the tribal hymn as he slept. Many cargo ships and warships passed by and thought my father was a sleeping tortoise, floating along, and decided to let it drift. Eventually, my father paddled himself over to the nearest city. He was identified as an intruder. Unfortunately, his tribal garments made him a complete giveaway to the local security officers. They chased him through the city. He ran barefoot in his tribal garments through alleyways, through sidewalks, and through an advanced network of buildings. He somehow escaped the pack of security officers, and he bolted back to his raft. He paddled away to another nearby city. He floated around for weeks. He chewed on the bark from the dead logs on his raft for his daily nutrients. He paddled to another nearby city, and he joined a traveling marching band. He didn't speak to any of the locals. He didn't have any prior knowledge in regards to playing musical instruments, though he was very talented when it came to pretending to play musical instruments. He could pretend to play any musical instrument he was given. Eventually, the traveling marching band was selected to perform at the Deptford Elementary School for a spring assembly. At this assembly, my mother played the pan flute. My father was impressed. When the show concluded, my father approached my mother with one of the members of his traveling marching band. He had this traveling marching band member translate everything my father said. He told her the story of how he had arrived at that very moment. It was one of the few things he successfully communicated to her. My mother listened intently. She was the only one he ever told the story. The two hit it off. My father proceeded to move to Deptford. He became an elementary school art teacher. He had his students focus on the practice of free draw. His students sat down in class and drew whatever they wanted. Some students would show my father their artwork. He would observe it for some time, and he would nod in approval. Over the years, my father and mother worked together at Deptford Elementary School. They had a secret relationship. This secret relationship began after the two created decorations for the annual Deptford Elementary School holiday performance. Out of all the other faculty members, my father was the only one who had ever volunteered to help decorate for the annual Deptford Elementary School holiday performance. The two really bonded with each other as they prepared the decorations, which, I believe, based on my calculations, was how and where my siblings and I were conceived. Altogether, my father was a very polite and well-mannered man. As I grew up, my father would bring me picture books, and we would lay down on the floor at night, and he would point at the pictures on the pages and nod his head, and eventually, I started to tell a story based on those pictures, not the words. I believe that this developed my inventive imagination. Sometimes, he came off as a silly guy. When I was an infant, I somehow learned to crawl backwards before I learned to crawl forwards. One time, my father lost me after I crawled backwards under the living room couch. After he noticed my disappearance, he began to look everywhere, except under the couch. He looked through all the rooms in the house. He dug everything out of every drawer and cabinet. He went to each of the neighboring houses and knocked on the front door with a drawing of me, and he did not hear the response he wanted to hear. He roamed around the surrounding forest. He checked in the trees. He checked in bushes. My mother came home and vacuumed around the house. As she vacuumed the living room floor, she slid the head of the vacuum under the couch and unintentionally vacuumed me out. Meanwhile, my father continuously searched all throughout our town, all by foot. Later, he came home crying, and when he saw me swaddled in my mother's arms, he dropped to his knees and bowed down and appeared to worship the hawk. As I recollected all this, Francis trotted over to my father. He nudged his chin with his nose. I decided to ask my father what was really on my mind. Father, have you ever had physical relations with multiple people at the same time in a restaurant bathroom, all in an effort to feel better about a failed relationship? My father stared at me inquisitively. Then he nodded. I wasn't sure if he nodded to say yes, or if he nodded because that was generally how he responded to everything. For the life of me, I could not recall a time when my father ever shook his head. I asked my father if this year's annual Deptford Elementary School holiday performance would be dramatically different than all the years prior. He distinctly nodded twice. He appeared to realize that he was supposed to go to the Deptford Elementary School to decorate for the annual Deptford Elementary School holiday performance after his hour of worship concluded. He leapt up, bowed one last time to the hawk statue, hung his tribal garments on the hook on the wall by the door, and paced downstairs. Francis followed him, so I left as well. I went into my room and sat on my bed. From my wallet, I took out the tiny rectangular piece of laminated paper folded up inside of my wallet. It was a stream of snapshots of Ella Opalton and I. The two of us hopped into a photo booth with giggly, smiley faces, and to our dismay, we realized that the photo booth was out of service. Yet we accommodated. We took a series of photos on my phone. We made the silliest of faces, and later on, I printed them and laminated them so as to make them look as though they were a legitimate set of snapshots from an operating photo booth. I looked at this stream of snapshots whenever I felt a longing for my dear Ella Opalton. Unfortunately, the stream of snapshots was completely blurred out by the blood from the altercation I had while I was studying abroad in Stockholm. I guess I didn't laminate the photos as well as I thought I did. All I had left was the memory in my head. So I sat there and imagined all the silly faces Ella Opalton and I made. It was one of the few times Ella appeared to be at ease. It was surely one of the most profound memories I had with Ella, and it was indeed the most incriminating piece of evidence left from the night when things took a turn during my study abroad program. I cried over the laminated stream of snapshots hysterically. I felt so lonesome. I thought about becoming a serial killer to feel something. I felt like I was the protagonist of the worst novel ever written. It reminded me a lot of the work of my first rivals, who was killed by another supposed up-and-coming self-published novelist. That was the culture of self-published novelists. Self-published novelists were cutthroat. Quite literally, I must say. I picked up the long-range walkie-talkie I had. The corresponding walkie-talkie was in my ex-girlfriend Ella Opalton's dormitory room. I knew this. She always kept it on and fully charged. Ella Opalton and I used to talk to each other with them due to the insufficient self-service in the Deptford area. I spoke on the walkie-talkie multiple times in an attempt to get her attention. She didn't respond. I explained what conspired in the restaurant's bathroom that night in descriptive detail. I wanted to be honest with her. I thought she would appreciate that. She didn't say anything. Maybe the airwaves were out of order. I put my walkie-talkie back on my nightstand. I went to bed clutching my baseball bat, and I stared out the window. Cars passed by on the road. Headlights brightened the walls of my room. I laid in bed. I felt sore. For a moment, I heard static resonate from my nightstand.